Kia ora koutou, good afternoon. That was very quick, Rick. While I welcome the opportunity that the Welfare Working Group has given us to come together over the last couple of days and to debate the future of welfare policy in our country, a lot that I've heard before and during this forum makes me think that we are actually entering a critically dangerous time for the future of our whole social security system. In talking about moving to an insurance model for welfare, what the working group and the government are doing is shifting the whole basis on which our social security system has operated since it was set up in the 1930s, and not for the better. The provision of welfare is not a business, any more than running the country is not just a business. On the other hand, the provision of insurance is a business, and the fact that we have business people without a background in social policy, much less experience of living on a benefit or working with beneficiaries, makes me fairly apprehensive about the outcome of the process. I've also seen comment around the theme that government alone cannot replace the social support that close-knit villages once provided. This sounds major alarm bells for me. There are many dangers in the concept of going back to the village, including the excuse it provides for the withdrawal of state support and the propagation of the myth that somehow there was a golden age when people automatically cared for the sole mother and her children, for the sick, for the injured, for the impaired and the aged. In fact, village and traditional society often meant, and still does mean all around the world, ignorance, contempt for those who are different, ostracism, and the simple abandonment of those who don't have the means to support themselves to a life of poverty, ill health and an early death. When you hear about the glories of the village and a return to localism, and that these will solve our social ills in relation to welfare debate, in relation to this welfare debate, I'd advise a good deal of caution. If New Zealand does go round the road of making welfare more like ACC, whether just in case management and operational principles, or in how it's funded as well, this will mark a rejection of the fundamental principle of the 1938 Social Security Act, that there is a community responsibility for making sure that people are helped when economic conditions means they cannot help themselves. Despite the numerous changes to the details of our welfare laws since 1938, this principle still underpins our current system. And rickety and inadequate though the current system is, it's a lot better than what may be around the next corner. As others have discussed over the last 2 days, the shape of an ACC or insurance-based system is likely to mean, in stark terms, that most people on working age benefits will be hounded into at least looking for paid work, no matter how precarious or unpleasant that work might be, or how few jobs there actually are out there. And I would really endorse what some people have been saying today about the lack of attention here to the labour market and what's actually going on with jobs, including the fact that we've still got high unemployment. For those who are sick, injured or impaired, the very harassment that they suffer will intensify a range of physical and mental injuries, illnesses and impairments, and cause new ones, making people even less able to cope with work, with children and relationships, and with life generally. Judging from overseas experience, a full employment or social insurance scheme is likely to see high-skill, high-wage workers benefit for the first period that they are out of work, but the rest of the workforce, people who are on low wages, which is a huge percentage of our workforce, or people who are in part-time, casual or temporary work, or those who are new to the workforce, they will all miss out either altogether or to some extent, leaving them at the mercy of what is likely to be a very low level of a maintenance income support aimed at bare survival, if that. Usually in the countries that have these systems, there's a two-tier system with a fallback of food stamps or a very, very low level of welfare provision for those who don't have the employment or social insurance payments. And for anyone who is out of work for an extended period, employment insurance ends up failing when that time period runs out, and they too wind up in the benefit of last resort trap. In addition, All the motivation of an insurance-based system is to push people off benefits as fast as possible, which can lead to the sort of options that I believe the chair of the working group was putting up to the media yesterday, of including time-limited benefit periods. And I don't know how many of you or how many on the working group have actually thought about what time-limited benefits mean, but what that's about is saying you can only be on it for X number of months, years or whatever. After that time, what if you haven't got a job, your only options are begging, crime or death? Do we really want to widen the rich-poor gap in this country to the extent that we become like many other countries in the world, where people are just simply left to starve, to beg or to steal for survival, or prostitute themselves, or whatever other means of survival they can find, as if we don't have enough prisons already? Employment insurance could see the cost of much of welfare transferred to workers and to employers. Something else I haven't heard talked about a lot here is that actually in most of these systems employers contribute a substantial amount, and I don't know how many employers would be happy to see this added to their ACC levies. And what that does is reduce the government's bill by adding a major fund to the government's books and giving a great bonus to whichever insurance provider or providers get the job of providing the insurance. So there are a lot of people worried right now about the moves towards possible privatisation and partial privatisation of ACC. Just think about that applied to our welfare system as well. The full insurance model is the worst possible scenario for any society that calls itself humane.